All right, we're back. Welcome to the Relay Bitcoin podcast episode. I think it's 55, 56, something like that. And we have, as usual, an amazing guest, but this is really a special one because he told me that he actually is not doing more than 5 or 6 like podcast recordings a year. So I'm super, super hyped that he is here. Eric Weiss, how are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you are even not working currently because you're traveling. As we've discussed before, Bitcoiners are always working, on educating and
Yes.
orange pilling people. So kind of you are working, but you're also taking some time off, right? What is your maybe work? How is your year looking? I mean, you're obviously a hardworking guy. But are you trying to take just occasionally a week or two here and there and travel the world, or are you doing like sabbaticals where you just travel and try to plug out?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. One thing that struck both Michael and I over the last probably 2 years is that no matter where you go in the world, everybody's interested to talk about Bitcoin, and it's very egalitarian in the sense that it can be the person at the airport checking you in who's interested in it to the very wealthy person that you meet at dinner. Everybody equally is interested in learning about Bitcoin, or if I'm with Michael, there's certainly people coming up to him all the time at every socioeconomic level. So it's really interesting that Bitcoin hits people at all ends of the spectrum financially, educationally, and also all over the world. Whether it's Europe, we met in Prague, or I was in Switzerland, your home country, a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's everywhere, all over South America, Central America, wherever we go, people are interested in either telling us their story about how they got into Bitcoin, or have questions, or want to learn about it. So vacation and work seem to blend together. As a matter of fact, sometimes traveling and vacation can be even more productive than staying home, because staying home, I've hit everybody that I can hit with the education, and so sometimes you have to travel to find more people. So traveling's been
Right.
good.
But in your job, you're mainly connected also to the rich guys, right? I mean, I love your work that you're coming to conferences like in Prague, for example, and you mingle with all the plebs, and you have these
Yeah.
great fireside
Um,
chats on stage. But mainly, you're also connected to the very wealthy guys because these are your customers, right?
Correct. These are my customers. I think that educationally, it's important for everyone. And I think that Bitcoin's greatest value proposition is for the not particularly wealthy, for the everyday worker, um, maybe not who's living paycheck to paycheck, but more the person that has a little bit of savings, whose savings are being stolen from them through inflation. Yes, it's bad in the United States, but it's worse in every other country in the world. So these people can benefit the most from education. The rich people, they have other ways to compete with inflation. During inflation, lots of asset prices will float with inflation. If you're in real estate, those things will inflate, and other things, even stocks, inflate to a degree. So it's the less rich people um, that really need it the most, but also to some degree the people that can have the most impact on Bitcoin proliferating and becoming the vision that we all hope it can be are the affluent people. And rich people oftentimes are very smart and have great resources, and so they're always interested. They're they're already mentally set up to look for investment opportunities, whereas a lot of people in the world are not looking for investment opportunities per se. They're just trying to get day to day. But rich people are looking to stay rich or get richer, and so they're accustomed to looking at investment opportunities. So they're the most curious, and we're seeing Wall Street now in the United States embrace Bitcoin in a very big way, which I think is going to be a major catalyst.
That's interesting because you have probably and you're obviously very well connected with Michael Saylor and others that are so deep in this space, like in the Bitcoin space, but also in like the politics that are going on in the US, which obviously kind of has an effect on all the other jurisdictions, the whole world as well. Like what the SEC will decide, what kind of BlackRock will do, what presidential candidates will kind of make it. This will have amazing effects on the whole world, on the whole Bitcoin industry as well. So can you give a bit of insights on kind of what is discussed currently? What is the timeline? When do you think like it's really going to be accepted and established, like Bitcoin as an asset, as a savings technology? When is it going to be really hit? When is it going to be as accepted so that all the other countries, like for example the EU that are working on the MiCA regulation now, they will all look at the US, right? So do you think that there's a major or several major signals coming up?
So the most important thing is that the last two chairmen of the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States, Gary Gensler, the current one, and his predecessor, have both said that Bitcoin is a commodity. And that's a particularly important distinction. So as a commodity, members of Congress and other politicians, presidents, can advocate for or stand up for Bitcoin. Whereas if Bitcoin were a security, think of like Apple stock. You couldn't have a member of United States Congress championing Apple stock. That would be playing favoritism towards a company or security. So the fact that Bitcoin has been deemed a commodity is massively important. The other thing that does is it puts the jurisdiction of Bitcoin in the CFTC's purview, not the SEC, because it's not a security, which is helpful. So I think to that end, we have a number of members of Congress, both senators and Congress people, Republican and Democrat, which is amazing because politics is so polarized in the United States that usually if one party's for something, another party's against it. But we've got people on both sides of the political divide who are championing Bitcoin, which is pretty remarkable. We've got presidential candidates, prominent presidential candidates in the United States now. Specifically, you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's a massive Democrat candidate who has said that, Bitcoin is freedom money. And he's a massive proponent of Bitcoin. And then on the Republican side, you got people like Ron DeSantis, who've also championed Bitcoin and are in favor of Bitcoin. So that's really unique. So the combination of those two things is really big. I think that the next big event for Bitcoin in the United States would be an approval of an ETP or an ETF. An exchange-traded product that BlackRock is going for, Fidelity is going for, and a number of other massive financial institutions. BlackRock and Fidelity are the two largest financial asset managers in the world. So that's a big deal. They each represent roughly $10 trillion of assets under management, and that's massive because in the past they've been telling that $10 trillion of people, don't touch this stuff. It's bad for you, whatever negative things they've said. But, if they have an ETF and they have a product to sell these people that they can make money on, that tune is going to change and they're going to start suggesting that these people have some percentage of their money in Bitcoin, which is just massive because when you've got a fixed supply and not too many natural sellers, the price, the impact of that on price is going to be very, very dramatic when that gets approved. And for context, BlackRock is the largest issuer of ETFs in the world. They have filed over the years 576 applications for an ETF, and they have been approved 575 of those 576 times. So they tend not to fail too often. So a lot of people are optimistic that it's going to get approved. And if it does get approved, my guess is it would probably get approved in the first quarter of 2024.
Okay, yeah, I think they have the SEC has time until end of March or something. So probably they will
Correct.
also take this time, and then they're
Yeah,
not
I
gonna.
think they're going to take as much time
Yeah,
as they're given.
yeah,
And then I also think that they probably won't approve like just one ETF. That they'll probably approve all the ones that they can approve if and when they do approve, so that they're not seen as playing favorites in that regard. And then I think it's also highly probable that GBTC, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, will probably get converted into an ETF when that happens as well.
yeah, yeah. I think there are 9 ETF filings now, as
Yeah,
you said, big names. So if BlackRock will be approved, and also Fidelity, Vanek, Invesco, I mean, they will all
yeah,
get approved. And I agree with you that it's a bigger deal than many people think, mainly because these guys, BlackRock and Fidelity and all these guys, have massive marketing budgets that they will obviously invest into distributing this ETF in the whole world
yeah.
with the biggest with the biggest investors, institutional investors that there are in the world, and obviously they will be
The
successful
biggest.
with this.
Yeah, I think people don't quite understand just how massive this is. Um, for example, you know, a sovereign MicroStrategy is kind of a quasi Bitcoin ETF, right? To some degree. But if you had a massive institutional investor that wanted to put $2 billion into Bitcoin, they can't do it through MicroStrategy because the market cap is, only $6 billion or so, right? It would move it too much. There's just not, they can't handle a $10 billion investment. So the other great thing about an ETF is an ETF, these firms, the BlackRocks of the world, they're just looking to make the fee, whatever it is, 50, 75 basis point fee. That's what they want. So when someone says, okay, I'd like to buy $1 billion worth of this Bitcoin ETF, they literally go out and buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. They don't care what the price of the Bitcoin that they're buying is. They need to buy the $1 billion worth of Bitcoin so they can give these people $1 billion of shares. And so it's going to drive many, many, many billions of dollars of demand for Bitcoin when these ETFs launch. And I think that once we cross that threshold, I think Bitcoin, the way I've been phrasing it recently, I say the retail kind of window for Bitcoin investors will start to close, and the institutional chapter of Bitcoin will begin. Everybody obviously will always be able to buy sats and hold Bitcoin, but the opportunity for those outsized returns is going to close. And I think there aren't too many times in life that you get to front run Wall Street. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, has already on public television, CNBC and Fox, has gone out there and said, Bitcoin is an international asset. It's good for diversification. It's good for protecting against, inflation, and it's a digital gold. So he's already marketed Bitcoin. This is the CEO of BlackRock. So it's out there. Whether they get approval or not, we kind of got the blessing of the CEO of the largest asset management firm in the world. So that's really significant. And yet the price has gone down, not up, since then. So it's pretty remarkable to me that people don't see it and aren't viewing this as the true opportunity to buy the dip, if there's ever been one. I personally have been buying as much as I can.
Buy the fucking dip, guys.
Yeah.
No financial advice.
Yeah. Not financial advice. But I'm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to know for himself. But I agree with you. It's a huge opportunity. And so, is this something that you and Michael, obviously Michael Saylor, we will talk about this in a bit, but you were super early in this whole space. I mean, you were very early. Michael was kind of early, right? But did you know?
Yeah, it's only been like
already
3 years for him. Yeah.
3 years for him. How long for you?
I bought my first Bitcoin in December of 2013.
Wow, so you were super early, Michael, kind of early, thanks to you. Was this something that you already knew that will happen? Did you anticipate that like
No,
BlackRock will come out and put a Bitcoin
no,
ETF on the
absolutely
shelf?
not.
Hey everyone, this is Anna from Relai. I want to tell you about Relai Private. It's our exclusive service for private clients, family offices, and small or medium-sized companies looking to buy or sell large amounts of Bitcoin. As a Relai Private client, you have a full team focusing on your needs. A dedicated account manager guides you every step of the way. You also get personalized 24/7 support and gain access to exclusive reports and industry insights created by Relai. If that sounds like something you or somebody you know should check out, click the link in the description or head over to relay.app/private.
No, as a matter of fact, I think that we're all still very early right now. I think that once an ETF gets approved, that might be the demarcation line between early and not early. I really think that's probably the difference between being early or not, is if you get in before there's a Bitcoin ETF, you were early. And the fact that people can buy today at the price they can, and whatever their fiat currency is mind-blowing to me, that this opportunity still exists. On a risk-adjusted basis, I think that Bitcoin right now at 26,000 US dollars or whatever it is the single best risk-adjusted opportunity it's ever been. When I bought it for, I don't know, roughly $800 in December of 2013, it was not nearly as good an investment as it is today. It was a hope and a prayer with no traction and nothing. It was an investment based on an idea and kind of a moral support, not really an investment. And that's why, with the fluctuations in the price of Bitcoin at the time, I sold that Bitcoin too early, obviously, in hindsight. But in reality, it was just based on hope. And now things are not based on hope. It's based on very real attraction and adoption and the writings on the wall to a large degree. And so now I think it's the best investment opportunity it's been.
That's a very counterintuitive but interesting take, and it's true. Then it was really high risk, and now it's actually quite low risk. And it's crazy to me that for less than 30K you can still buy a whole coin.
It's honestly, it's a little bit frustrating to me. It's like Wall Street missed this. The institutional money of the world missed this, and those of us who are in early, the plebs, who've been buying for a long time, I would have hoped that our benefit to doing so was greater, and that Wall Street should be paying a higher price now, right? But these bastards are going to get in at a ridiculously good price, and rather than bitch about it, all I can do is buy more. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just like, well, I'll just keep buying because there's going to come a time when I can't afford to buy a Bitcoin for sure. And so I'd rather get them while I can afford them.
Do you think these big guns, BlackRock and etc., are manipulating the price down? Are they?
I don't. I have a lot of very intelligent, influential friends, not Michael, but a number of people who do think that's the case. And I don't think they care one way or another what the price is. They're in the business of making fees. And they do very well making fees. They don't need to take risk. They don't need to get outsized reward. If they bring in, $50 billion, $10 billion to their ETF, and they're making their 50 basis points to 1% a year, and the price of Bitcoin goes up, and they're making a bigger and bigger number, I think they'll be extremely happy. I don't think they're looking to manipulate the price.
Because also they don't hold it themselves anyway. They don't really hold significant amounts of Bitcoin, so they don't have skin in the game, right? They're really into the business.
They could. I mean, they're certainly allowed to speculate on their proprietary balance sheet, but it's just not what they do. I think that, they have like the best business in the world, right? They get to make tons of money risk-free. So when you're of the mentality of making money risk-free on a fee basis, taking that level of risk, I think, is less appealing.
True. So before I ask you how you orange-pilled Michael Saylor, who orange-pilled you in 2013, and how did this come about?
I was in venture capital at the time, and I was investing specifically in internet-related companies. So my firm, we were pretty good at understanding the value that the internet added to different businesses, and also importantly, businesses that the internet didn't add value to. At that time, everybody was putting .com at the end of their name, trying to pretend that Bitcoin, that the internet was very helpful to them. But I went to a conference in Miami, and in 2013, a Bitcoin conference. And this was the first time that I saw the internet being used to transmit value safely and securely. So the internet was really good for sharing information, connecting people, email, that kind of thing. But people were very reluctant to even do e-commerce online, put their email and put their credit card number into a website, or put their credit card number or something into an email. It was like very scary, with good reason. We've seen all the hacks and all the, just how unsecure the internet was. So Bitcoin was the first time that I saw value being able to transmit safely and securely from one party to another. And even more than that, you didn't need a trusted party in the middle, no middleman. And there was no trust required, right? Like, you would know that the Bitcoin was real just by virtue of it hitting your wallet. So this was like really mind-blowing to me, and that's what orange pilled me.
Absolutely. So it was not a specific
Not an
person
individual.
that kind of was already enthusiastic. It was just you got to know the concept at a conference and it kind of clicked with you.
Correct. Yeah.
Super nice. And did you already know Michael Saylor back then?
Yeah, Michael and I have been friends for more than 25 years. So,
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, we'd known each other a long time, and we'd always talked about business and technology and things of that nature. And I had brought up Bitcoin a number of times in the past, and he wasn't interested in hearing about it, and would kind of dismiss that conversation. Oftentimes even kind of telling me that I should think about getting into this or not, that it was still in a bit of a gray area. But he had his company to run and thousands of employees, and was competing every day against companies like Microsoft and Salesforce, and this wasn't his focus at all. So I understand why it wasn't on his radar. And then during the pandemic, we were spending a lot of time we both live in Miami, during the winter a bit. And so he was down there during the pandemic, and we're spending a lot of time together, trying to make sense of what was happening in the world. The governments had shut everything down and locked everybody in their homes, and businesses had come to a halt, and yet the stock market was going up. And we were just trying to make sense of things. And he remembers that I said something along the lines of, when there's big change like this, there's opportunity. We just have to find the opportunity. And then I went back to talking about Bitcoin, because I do that. And instead of dismissing the conversation, he was receptive to it, because we were trying to make sense of what was happening in the world. And he just said, tell me more about that. And so we spent the next week or so talking about it. I told him everything I knew. He obviously asked very good probing questions, and the more he asked, the more I realized I don't know enough. So I pointed him to some other resources after he had pulled everything out of my brain, and then helped him figure out how to buy it, etc. And then one day I was pulling into a restaurant for dinner with some other friends, and the phone rang, and it was Michael. At the time, the price of Bitcoin was almost exactly $10,000 US per Bitcoin. And so I picked up the phone, and I was like, what's up? And he said, I bought some Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, cool. And he said, yeah, 10,000. And I said, you bought one Bitcoin? And he said, no, I bought 10,000 Bitcoin. So his first trade was $100 million. And I went from thinking, great, I got my buddy into Bitcoin to, oh shit, I got my buddy into Bitcoin. And anybody who's been in Bitcoin for any amount of time knows that it's, not just straight up and to the right. There's some volatility in there. So I had some anxiety about that. Still have a little anxiety about that, but it's working out very well for MicroStrategy and for Michael. So I'm happy about that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he certainly likes extremes. So I'm
Yes.
not gonna buy a coin or
Yes.
two. I'm gonna fucking buy 10K. Holy shit.
Yeah, but
And
that's
so
what research and conviction will do for you, right? Because he does his own research, and he doesn't do things half-ass, and he doesn't do anything until he has conviction. So he took the time to learn everything that he could, and didn't evaluate just Bitcoin, evaluated everything else, gold, this, that, the other. And when he had his conviction, then, when he does something, he does it in a significant way.
And how long was that before then MicroStrategy got in? Because I feel like this was probably quite a long, hard fight, even for him. I mean, he's obviously the founder and has a lot of influence, like major influence, obviously, on MicroStrategy, but still a listed company. So from the point he was kind of convicted and he was a private investor until he got the company. Invested in. There's also probably conflict of interest topics. I don't know if he's such a quite a holder already of Bitcoin and legal
I'm
market.
intentionally not privy to a lot of the details, but suffice to say that unbeknown to me at the time, he was interested in getting his company into Bitcoin, not just personally, but I guess his company was taking longer, and so he bought some personally, I think, and then over time. His board came to the conclusion that we can't just do something different like this without giving shareholders an opportunity to sell. So they did what's called a tender offer for the shares. They announced what they were going to do. Any shareholders that didn't want to be a part of that, the company offered to buy their stock back at a price over the current stock price. And some small percentage of people took advantage of that. And then once they had purchased the shares from people who didn't want to come along for the Bitcoin ride, then they used the rest of their money to buy Bitcoin, and then have subsequently raised money and bought more Bitcoin since.
Has he as a person or your relationship kind of changed since then? Did it get intensified even, or like?
We talk a lot more about Bitcoin than we used to. Yeah, I would say we talk about Bitcoin on a daily basis. So in that sense, things, we always had common interests, but now, the primary interest in both of our lives is the same one. So we bond on that and talk about that a great deal. And it's only made our friendship stronger. Fortunately, it seems to be going in the right direction. So we don't need to consider so much what might happen if it didn't work out so well, but it's going okay.
Yeah, he is now basically full-time into Bitcoin and you are full-time into Bitcoin, right? Do you sometimes
Correct.
wonder how it's gonna be, let's say in 10 years, if all of these things that we hypothesize on really work out as we think, like we as the Bitcoin community, things like hyper-Bitcoinization, Bitcoin as the global reserve currency, Bitcoin ETFs, Bitcoin presidential candidates, or actually presidents, all that kind of stuff. If that's going to work out, do you sometimes envision, okay, where will the price be and where will we be, you and Michael, kind of as you'll
Not
be
really,
among the richest
no.
people in the world?
Not really. No. I think it's more that the world is going in peculiar directions right now. There's hyperinflation in many countries in the world. Governments are taking away people's civil liberties, and I think that Michael and I both believe, I don't want to speak for him, but I think we both believe that you have to stand for something in life and you have to have a purpose. And I think we both believe that Bitcoin is just and good and moral and fair. And maybe it doesn't solve all the world's problems, but it certainly solves a lot of problems and helps a lot of people. So I think we focus on education and a degree of success for that purpose, and we want to be on the side of what's morally and ethically right. So I think the focus is there. Michael was very wealthy before getting into this. He had started with nothing, truly nothing, true American dream, and had become a billionaire. So he had achieved that American dream before this. So I don't think, everybody likes financial gain, but I certainly don't think it was his primary motivating factor. He already had a lifestyle that most would envy. So, we don't spend a lot of time fantasizing or thinking about that piece of it.
That's interesting, because I do. I wonder how the world will look like when all these guys that were so early now, like maybe including also Jack Dorsey to the group, and a couple of them that you just know they were already billionaires and they put a lot of their cheddar into Bitcoin. And in 10 years, these are going to be the Jeff Bezos and Elon Musks of the world. They will be the most influential and
but
the richest people in the world. I wonder how the world will be.
When I was in Columbia Business School, Warren Buffett came to speak to my class, and we had a student in my class from Italy who asked at the time what seemed like a pretty embarrassing question. He asked Warren Buffett, he said, Forbes magazine says that you're the second richest man in the world. What's that like? And Buffett's answer in hindsight was very interesting. He said, well, I'm happiest when I'm sitting in my house in Omaha, Nebraska, that you could probably afford, sitting in a chair that you could afford, drinking a Coca-Cola that you could afford. And then he said, but when he left the talk that night, he had his own airplane that would take him home, and so that was nice, that it makes travel easier. But it's really not that different, I don't think. So once you have the comforts in life and security, and you can generally buy the modest things that you want, be it a house or a car or whatever, I don't think it makes a whole hell of a lot of difference. No matter how many homes you have, you can only be in one of them at a time, So we don't think or talk about that much, to be honest.
Interesting. Yeah, you're just doing the good work. You're just educating, orange pilling, and because you think it's going to lead us to a better life, to better society.
You got to stand for something in life, Yeah, you got to stand for something in life. You have to have a purpose, and if you're lucky enough to find a purpose that doesn't have an aggrieved party, that nobody has to lose or get hurt for your purpose that you think makes the world a better place to win, then that's a nice thing to be a part of. And that's one of the amazing things to me about Bitcoin, is that nobody has to lose. It's just everybody who touches it seems to win, as long as they're morally and ethically responsible. So it's a feel-good thing to be a part of, and it's a great community of people, as the people that you meet at conferences and the like. Everybody's really nice and positive, and that's even with the price action being flat to down. Like everywhere Michael and I go, the people that come up to him, nobody is it's always positive. People are always coming up and thanking him, or just saying hello, or it's always positive comments. It's just a community of like-minded, nice people that generally speaking have pretty good morals and values.
Yeah, well said. That's also one big part why I'm still in the game also since 2015. Really also trying to make, similar things that you guys are doing. Also working full time in the Bitcoin industry and trying to get as many people as possible educated about the topic. This is really, really cool. So my last question, as usual, Eric, also to you. You don't have to answer it, but I ask everyone, okay, you are a big fan of Bitcoin. So what's kind of the proportion, the percentage of your total wealth that you have committed to Bitcoin?
Yeah, let me think about that. I would say it's, roughly 50% of my liquid net worth, in that range.
Mm-hmm. Same here, actually. I still think it's too early to really go all in, like 90% all in, because then you will be forced at one point, and probably when the price is low, to sell because you have something other that you need to take care of, So
yeah,
I
have obligations in fiat, and
right.
I have other illiquid investments that I had prior to Bitcoin that I couldn't get out of. I have a home, I have other things, so plus some like long-term real estate stuff, that commercial real estate kind of investments that for better or worse I'm locked in for a period of time. So yeah. Do
you think it makes...
Fortunately, I have a little dry powder to buy this dip, which I'm doing, but yeah.
Well done. Absolute last question, but this is also interesting for me. How do you think it makes sense to hold a certain proportion of that also, like in a non-custodial cold wallet? Or are you kind of, and in these regions that you guys are buying it, also Michael Saylor, I don't think he has tens of thousands of coins in his hardware wallet. He probably has some. But do you think it makes sense to have a certain portion there, or do you have everything kind of
I don't have any Bitcoin personally in cold storage. I have friends who are in the cold storage device business, and they have explained to me in great detail just how cold storage works, and I think I understand it pretty well. But for me, and certainly for my family office, high net worth individual clients, for many of them it's not appealing. It raises more issues than it solves for many. So, okay, you've got your seed phrase. How and where do you store that seed phrase? What people in your life should know that seed phrase? If it's broken up among a bunch of safe deposit box and Swiss banks or something, or banks in various different countries, how do you manage that? What happens if something happens to one of those banks, etc.? So it just opens up a lot of questions that a lot of my investors don't want to answer. And my Bitcoin is with Fidelity Digital Assets, which I think is safest custodian in the United States. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm not sure, but I don't think a publicly traded company would be allowed to self-custody. They probably have to have a custodian too, I would think. So there are there's still some opportunities in self-custody for folks to solve with a cool user interface or other technological advances that might make that more palatable. But for example, my Bitcoin fund is the only fund in the US that I know of, or that I've ever heard of, where when an investor redeems their Bitcoin or redeems from the fund, they have the opportunity, they can choose to go back into US dollars and we'll send them US dollars, or they can provide a wallet address that we'll verify and we'll send them Bitcoin when they're ready to self-custody. Because I think that aspect is maybe the most important aspect of Bitcoin. And you want to be in Bitcoin now, but maybe it's not right for everybody to self-custody just yet.
Absolutely, really true to the principles of Bitcoin in the first place. Yeah. Thank you very much,
we support
Eric.
self-custody. We love self-custody. Yeah. No, but I do want to say, like, I love the self-custody. I support self-custody. I think it's one of the true differentiators of Bitcoin and fiat, that it's a bearer asset. It's not a promissory note. And being able to take possession of that is a tremendous comfort, or just remembering your seed phrase in your head and walking across country lines or anywhere on the planet is the ultimate sovereignty. So I'm all about it.
Me too. Well said. Thank you very much, Eric. It was very inspiring and amazing to talk to you. I know how scarce your time is, so really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of your vacation. Hopefully get to vacate a little bit.
Yeah, my pleasure, Julian. Thanks for having me, and keep up the good work. I love what you're doing, and the service you're providing is really valuable, so really appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You got it, bro.
Cheers,
Take
Eric.
care.